Welcome to the Polite Society podcast, powered by the Firearms Policy Coalition. Today is Sunday, February 2nd. I'm getting way ahead of myself. Groundhog Day 2020. I'm Paul Lathrop.
Are you sure? I'm Rob Morris, and on tonight's show, we'll talk with Rob Pincus about Save the Second and Walk the Talk America.
I'm John Richardson, and we'll talk about Senator Warren and her so-called comprehensive gun violence legislation.
I'm Amanda Suffolk, and I took offense at the internet today. I'll share it with you.
I'm Gary Doherty, and in one of our DGUs, the fourth time still wasn't a charm for an intruder. So climb aboard.
Strap in.
And hang on.
Episode 529 of the Polite Society podcast starts right now. Okay, we're back. As mentioned, it is Groundhog's Day. Rob, I guess the rat did not see his shadow, but it's spring down there already. So what have you been up to, man?
Well, it is spring and it isn't. I went in a pond and it was all at 57 degrees, so spring could get here any day now. I practiced, recorded self-defense gun stories, and I've been working out the details of my trip to Florida for the Region 5 campout. See you there, Paul.
Yes, sir.
John, how about you?
Well, while I didn't catch the SHOT Show crud, my cough that I'd been fighting did turn into bronchitis. Finally went to urgent care to get stuff that would suppress the cough, and it seems to be working. As to the SHOT Show itself, I saw a lot of friends of the show, shot some guns, did some interviews, and have a few new guns on the radar for the purchase. Oh, and the sick Chinese passenger on my first leg of the flight home from Las Vegas did not have coronavirus.
It was Heineken virus instead, right?
I have no idea. All I know is that we waited at the gate 30 minutes, and we were surrounded by ambulances and fire engines.
Ooh, that would be scary as hell.
We decided to burn the plane to save it.
Yes.
With you in it.
Yeah, right.
No, right. I was next to an exit row, so I was good. Anyway, how about you, Tracy?
Yesterday, I assisted with a full class of Defensive Pistol Skills 1 at KR Training. We had 18 motivated students come out to train with us and learn how to work from a holster and from concealment. Today, I worked all day open to close as range master on the pistol range at Shady Oaks Gun Range. I'm teaching a Kubaton class Tuesday night, and I have other classes and lessons the other nights this week, and I'm a busy girl. Gary, what's going on with you?
Hey, you know what? Not much. Carry it every day. My representative is going to pay for another concealed carry class for constituents this spring, which I am giving. So looking forward to that. A lot of politics, of course, and that's all I got.
Hey, Gary.
Hey, Rob.
Normally you say, oh, gosh, the sky is falling. Illinois is going to someplace warm. And you didn't say that this time. Did they shut down Springfield? What?
The sky has fallen.
Yeah? What?
It's a cluster. And I'm, with the model being set in Virginia, I'm really not looking forward to my state house getting back to doing the work of the people.
Gotcha. Okay.
Did you see the non-funding of the FOID cards? And the fact that they've stripped $30 million out of the FOID cards fund that allows them to hire people to be able to do those promptly. And so now they say they can't do them promptly because they don't have enough money, but they took the money. So then the Second Amendment Foundation is suing them because they're not doing it promptly. And we're back to it's a cluster.
But it is great that SAF is suing their clients.
Right.
Sorry,
and I
beyond.
didn't.
Yeah.
Family friendly. Yep. Good.
Yeah. Exactly.
Let me know when we get the satellite radio so I can say that.
the Howard Stern version of the Polite Society podcast.
That's right.
Yes, I did see it. And that's why I tell everybody to hold off on putting money into the NRA and put it into the SAF, because they are on top of things early and often. And now that I've a little bit more seen the light, I see that the NRA tends to jump in on the tail end of things and says, "Oh, we're here too. We had another winner," but they don't do the legwork.
Yeah, they have different purposes. They really do have different purposes.
Yeah. Illinois State Rifle Association, Second Amendment Foundation. That's my people in Illinois for sure. Dana, unmute.
This is when Dana takes off mute.
Is it on your mic?
And I'm still not hearing Dana.
Now go on your screen and unmute.
Ah, the drama of live radio. Bill
There we
Frady
go.
says that about every third week. What just turned to crap in front of us? Oh, damn it.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give my news, and we'll try to come back to Dana. Dana, keep working on your audio. We'll see if we can. Nothing
Get
yet.
you into the 21st century.
Yeah, no.
No, we still don't have your microphone, dude. We'll try. I'm going to give my news, and we'll try coming back to you quick. First of all, before I do that, I want to mention we do already have some people commenting on social media, and thank you. And we're going to be bringing those comments in throughout the show as we do it. We're going to be interviewing Rob Pincus here in just a few minutes. So if you have questions for him, please pop them in, and we'll get them up. For me, my week, I was out on the East Coast and had to. I worked my tail off to get 3 junk cars hauled back to Sioux Falls, and it was an absolute adventure. Normally, I carry boxes and plastic bags and cabinets, and when I have reefer loads, I run bacon or pork products or ice cream. And on my way back, a back haul, because freight's slow. I mean, January, February, and March, those are the very lowest periods of time for freight. And so they were searching for whatever they could get me, and they loaded me up with 3 junk cars that got delivered out to this area. And while it's kind of fun to do something different, man, I had a 2009 Nissan Murano that had been sideswiped and had enough damage that it ended up in an insurance auction. All the tires were inflated. However, the thing would not start, and I had to hand push the thing once it got into my trailer 53 foot from the tail to the nose. And it was me, myself, and I. And I got it done, but oh my goodness, I haven't worked that hard physically in a very long time.
That'll work out the quads, won't it, man?
It worked out everything, man. I'm telling you, I hadn't hurt that much since the first time I took a Masada U group class. So,
Wow.
Then I am leaving tomorrow. We're re-recording Sunday night because Monday morning I'm scheduled to pick up, and I deliver Thursday down in Jacksonville, and then the boss has given me permission to drive the truck down to Ocala, where I'm going to be spending Friday, Saturday, and part of Sunday for the Florida Carry event down in Ocala on Saturday and Sunday. And I'm looking forward to seeing you, Rob, and I'm looking forward to seeing everybody that's going to be showing up down there. I myself did get a little irritated at the internet too. We'll probably talk about. You know what? Let's do this. Dana, have you got your audio fixed yet? I can see your lips move, but I hear nada.
Yeah.
All right.
Nope.
You know what? We are.
Toss it to me because I haven't spoken yet.
Oh, you haven't?
Imagine that. Me.
All right.
Shy and retiring.
All right. Well, Amanda, tell us about you getting angry. Dana, keep working on it.
So, this week I spent the week working on DC Project because they're going statewide. And so there's state chapters, there's a national chapter, there's districts, So I was doing a lot of that. And then I was doing some pitching of the DC project to CPAC because I want to see if we can actually speak at CPAC at National Harbor. So that was kind of where I was spending my time. Then some jackwagon sent me an email telling me that I don't do enough for the Second Amendment. Okay, so that's how it started my weekend. That kind of got me a little cranked. And then...
Really?
Yeah, cranked. Yeah. And then today there was a picture of a gal that is wearing yoga pants, and she's got a clip-on gun, probably like a utility clip or something, and a clip-on gun with these yoga pants. And her gun was pulling her pants down, not off, but down.
Right.
And the internet turned into all the mean girls, and the comments and the things that people were saying were unbelievable. Well, I was already cranked by this other jackwagon, so I went out and just kind of put up this whole thing about the fact that if somebody knows this gal, I will train her. I will go across the country. I will get one of you. I will call favors. I will get her gear. I will get her training, and I will fix what she's got going on because her 2A spirit is alive and well there. She's got something going on that she felt the need to have a gun, even though she didn't have the most perfect situation. And yet we, the 2A bullies that are all sitting at their computer in their mother's basement, we're just tearing her up. So the thing is that if that were you and you saw it, that all of a sudden you went internet viral with the fact that your pants were at half-mast, that's embarrassing, that's bad, and frankly, we're better than that. And that was my issue, is we are better than that. So if anybody finds this gal, we will fix it. Anna Taylor from Dean Adams said she will donate new yoga pants that are designed for firearms concealed carry. Crossbreed said that they would donate a belly band. I've got several instructors who said that they would donate instruction. So we just need to find her. But there are those type of people in everybody's circle. Mm-hmm. We need to help them.
Amanda, my wife comes to me every few months and goes, "Oh, I found this new way to carry in this outfit." And I'm going, That's awesome, because that's not the sort of problem I can help you with.
Right.
Good work. So there are a ton of resources out there,
right?
And not every firearm instructor has all the answers. In fact, let me turn that over. Even very knowledgeable people like you, if you put on concealed carry fashion shows, and I bet every now and again you go, "Well, look at that. I never thought of that.
I never saw that." Yeah.
I want to get into some comments coming in off of Facebook. Dan says, "Spot on target, Amanda." And Kevin says, "Amanda has done more for our 2A rights in one day than most of these idiots have done in a lifetime combined." And then Stan says, "Nothing worse than scaring away new people. We all started somewhere."
Amen.
Exactly. I tell my students that I used to take my gun outside to load and unload because I was sure that I was going to AD and have a hole in my tile floor. Everybody starts that way.
I shot my first 44 Magnum through the roof of the range.
Okay.
Jeez. Okay. Dana, real quick, have you got that microphone situation fixed? You do not, because I still see your lips move, and I do not hear a thing. We got to jump to break. We're going to be coming back to Rob Pincus. He's sitting there patiently waiting for us to get to him. We're going to be talking with him in just a few minutes. We got to run to break. Let's talk about ACLDN first. Here we'll go with that.
This portion of the Polite Society podcast is brought to you by the Armed Citizens Legal Defense Network. If you carry a defensive handgun, you need protection from the aftermath of prosecution. Even if you do everything right, you can be the victim of an overzealous prosecutor or even be falsely accused. That is where the ACLDN comes in. They provide immediate assistance when you need it most. If you find yourself under arrest, they immediately pay bail money and the retainer for your attorney. Additional funds are available for trial and civil proceedings. Beyond the money, they have far and away the best team in the industry, providing you invaluable information and training DVDs that are included with your membership and who stand ready to work with your lawyer on your defense. People like Masad Ayub, John Farnham, James Fleming, Tom Givens, Emmanuel Capelson, Dennis Tuller, and led by network president Marty Hayes. Initial membership is only $135 for your first year, and you get 8 incredible training DVDs and other educational material when you join. If you don't have tens of thousands of dollars to defend yourself at your disposal right now, you need to be a member of the ACLDN. Go to armedcitizensnetwork.org and become a member today. And please mention that you heard about them on the Polite Society podcast.
Hey, and welcome back. This is the Polite Society podcast powered by the Firearms Policy Coalition. We are talking today this is an interview segment of the Polite Society podcast. We're talking today with Rob Pincus. Rob's got a whole bunch of different titles. He's here today with Save the Second. Rob, thanks for joining us tonight, man. And I do not have Rob Pincus's audio.
Sorry, I was trying to make Dana feel better.
Good job.
Sorry. Just that's how that works, right?
Dana,
hey, I appreciate
Dana,
it.
you're
Nice
a trend center for Bob Pincus.
There you go. Most listeners, most of you talk about what you guys did this week and kind of what's been going on. I follow a lot of you online anyway, and saw some of the commentary you had, Amanda, and knew about the computer issues you had going on, Paul. And so it's nice to be on tonight with you guys.
Yeah, as of Friday evening, we may not have had a show. A good friend of mine, been to Mag 40 class here in Sioux Falls. Pat got in touch with me and said, "Hey, as a sideline, I repair computers and I take in used ones that aren't working and I get them working. I've got one that's ready to rock and roll if you need it." I said, "God bless you, man." So,
yeah.
Well, let's awesome. Because this is not supposed to be about me. It's not supposed to be about. It's supposed to be about Rob. What I wanted to talk to you about tonight, the reason we had you on is that the NRA has been hitting news. First of all, the ballots came out for the board of directors, and I'm gonna sting you with this one right off the bat. One person I think should run for the NRA board of directors is not running, and that's Rob Pincus. Why are you not running for board of directors?
That is a common question. I've talked about it a lot over the last year because of all the involvement with Save the Second, and obviously I've been very vocal in trying to get the NRA to move forward and change. I believe that right now I can do a lot more good for the Second Amendment community and even for the National Rifle Association and concerned National Rifle Association members from the outside than I can from the inside. And really what it comes down to is the board of directors is huge. It's 76 people. It's very hard to get anything done. The people that are getting things done on the board have been there for decades. And we're already starting to see change being affected by vocal members. We hope that some of the leadership at Save the Second has been part of that. The petition drive we did to get an attendance policy put in place for directors, in fact, is now a thing that hasn't been a thing for 149 years, and it was voted into place in the winter board meeting. So we are seeing change. We are affecting change, and I'm not having to sign my life away, so to speak, to be on the NRA board of directors. I've gone on record and said that when things have changed, I would absolutely love to serve the National Rifle Association and serve the American gun community as a director in a reformed NRA, but not in the current NRA.
Okay. So let's talk about. What was that?
I heard some crackling. Was that me, or are we good?
No. I think that's Dana trying to fix his microphone. Is what that was. We had you on to talk about the board. So, with the list of people out, is there anybody that Rob Pincus officially recommends as
there's
members to the
actually
board?
7 people that I'm voting for that I officially endorse or recommend. There's an article out at AmmoLand. You can read why I'm supporting the 7. I'll give you the list here in a second. And what I have up behind me, Ron Carter and Anthony Garcia, who were the founders of Save the Second, and I spent almost 2.5 hours going through all 38 names that are on the ballot and talking about what we knew about them, what we thought about them, why we would or would not support them. It was really important to us that we not just put out a list of names. And I'm going to give you the names, but I don't want you to just either say, well, I don't like Rob, so I'm not voting for them, or I do like Rob, so I am voting for them. I want you to do the research and at least read the articles, the article on these 7 people to see why I'm supporting them. And then if you agree, great, vote for them. I will mention that it's important to minimize your voting. Don't think that you have to vote for 31 people. You can vote for up to 31 people. It's really important that you maximize the value of your vote by only voting for candidates that you truly support. And for me this year, that meant that I truly supported them as reforms, as people working for a better, stronger NRA, because I think we've had a troubled NRA, an NRA crisis, in fact, for the last year or even longer. So Graham Hill is one member of the executive committee that I'm supporting. And again, he's been very engaging with concerned members, not just me, but members of Save the Second and other members who have attended the board meetings in the fall and in the winter. Todd Rathner is another person who's been on the board for a long time. He actually worked on the bylaws committee. He was very instrumental in making sure that this attendance policy went into place. Scott Bach also was working with him very closely. Don't want to leave him out, but he's not on the ballot. So Graham Hill, Todd Rathner, Steve Schreiner is another veteran of the board who I am supporting, again, because of the communication he's had with the members at large and the role that he is playing while he's not one of the guys banging the gong. The fact is we really don't have very many people left actively on the board who are banging the gong for change. We've had several people resign. And we've had a couple of people like Oliver North and Alan West kind of, go into limbo. They're not actively participating in meetings, although they were banging the gong for reform. So what we're left with is who's really working with the members. So Hill, Rathner, Schreiner, James Wallace, who's the head of GOAL, Gun Owners Action League up in Massachusetts. They have a hard fight there in Massachusetts, much like Illinois, California, New Jersey is one of those states where they are constantly battling against the tide most of the last couple of decades. And Jim Wallace and his team do a great job. I've seen him make some hard decisions and stick to what he believes is the right thing. He would be a new addition to the board. Anthony Calandro is one who is definitely gone back and forth with Anthony a lot over many years, both being from New Jersey, but especially this last year because he was running last year as a reformist. Then he got an endorsement from the leadership of the NRA for the 76th seat. And that soured his appeal for a lot of us. But the fact is he has been very communicative. He has worked very hard this year to make sure that we know that he is there for a better and stronger NRA, even if he's not banging the gong. And I think that if he gets a 3-year seat, gets on some committee, gets some committee assignments, he would be an asset to the members. And then Robert Manziel is another one who's not a name that everybody knows, but he's someone who is just finishing his first term on the board of directors. He's been working diligently. He goes to committee meetings he's not assigned to. He asks questions. He definitely engages the membership when they reach out to him to ask questions or have conversations. And he's been in the firearms industry for a long time. I think he's had a FFL and an SOT for 3 or 4 decades in Arizona. So he's one that is definitely, I think he understands the mindset of the average NRA member. And then lastly, Frank Tate. And Frank Tate is one who absolutely is a reformist. He has been a big proponent of the 5 tenets of reform from Save the Second from the beginning. He's been at the fall board meetings and the winter board meetings. And he was actually the one who read the resolution last year at the NRA annual meeting and convention during the members meeting to have a vote of no confidence taken on Wayne LaPierre. So he really got a lot of things rolling for us that day at the members meeting, which was so important to the pivot, I think, in the changes that we're seeing from the leadership and from the board. So Anthony Calandro, Graham Hill, Robert Manziel, Todd Rathner, Steve Schreiner, Frank Tate, and Jim Wallace are my 7 picks for the board of directors this year.
Okay. I'm going to ask
Rob,
go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say that I sat and I watched the video where you guys, the 3 of you, went through the detail of why you're voting for or not voting for each person. And that was tremendous because it was set up well. It had picture as well as audio. It kind of showed you the reasons why. And it wasn't just that you don't like this one or you do like that one. There was a lot of thought put in it. There was a lot of research put in it. It was really good work.
Thank you. Ron Carter did 99.9% of the work on that voter's guide, and there is a like a 50-page voters guide that you can go to SaveThe2A.org or go to any of the Save the Second social media and get that scribed document that's just full of information. And it's even full of more information than it was last week, because we did get some feedback about some factual errors we had, and we posted those in the notes, both in the comments under the videos on Facebook. We posted them in the description at YouTube, and he has updated. He's actually working on now a third revision of the voters guide. So for people that really want to dig in there and understand, who you should vote for as the voting NRA member, not just who we're voting for, that's the way to go. I also want to point out that, and I don't know if this will show up here on the screen, but there is probably not. There it is. There is a difference between Rob and Anthony and Ron in who we're recommending. So it's very important to let everybody know that, and you can see that on our social media, Instagram, wherever, that even as Save the Second, we do not 100% agree on who to endorse or who to vote for. And we did not want this to be, my point, and Amanda, you saw it, my point on the video was, look, if we tell you who to vote for as Save the Second, it's no different than the nominating committee or Wayne LaPierre telling you who to vote for. And that's exactly how we got here, was a disengaged membership and a disengaged board of directors, I believe. So that's why I think it's so important to dive deep into these questions.
Amen. Do we any more questions on the board of directors? Or I've got one more topic I want to hit about the NRA before we run off.
Rob, do you think the board of directors of the NRA are deliberately diluted to be as ineffective as they are? Is this
Absolutely.
a fault? Is this a feature or a fault?
This is a fault, and it's been built this way over, especially the last 2 or 3 decades. Ever since really the 77, Cincinnati Revolution, and then certainly with the coup that took place in 97, with Charlton Heston coming in to get Neil Knox, away from the leadership of the NRA. There's definitely been a strengthening and a circling of the kind of fortress that is the executive committee. Very few powerful committees, and certainly Wayne LaPierre and his staff being insulated from the will of the members, or really in many ways the interests of the American gun owner. So having one of our big things is term limits. That's something we're working on right now. Attendance policy was first. Attendance policy for us was important because we have so many board members who don't even show up to the meetings. And if you don't have at least a policy that says you're supposed to show up, well, they're not doing anything wrong, technically, from the NRA's point of view. So when you have guys like Carl Malone, who've literally never been to a board meeting, as we all understand it, he's never even been sworn in, because that happens at the board meetings. And yet he's been on for, well over a decade. He's been a board member because he has a popular name. So it's really important that we can at least have directors who are being held accountable to being engaged in their job. And that they realize their job isn't, Ted Nugent put it best, I think, in his comments in the fall. He said, look, I really thought the bankers and the lawyers were taking care of all the business thing. I thought it was my job to go out here and be an advocate for gun owners and an advocate for the NRA with the American working class. That was my job. And being a director is a real job. There's a business aspect and a legal aspect to it as well. So some of the smaller board term limits and the attendance policy tenets of reform are all geared towards changing this facet of the way the NRA operates, which is really dysfunctional right now. And again, another reason why I'm not interested in holding one of the board seats.
Paul, can I follow up?
Absolutely.
Rob, there are, and this is where I want you to make a distinction between board of directors and the working committees where the rubber meets the road. Yeah,
there's 76 board seats. Right now there's 73 maybe serving members, or maybe there were 73 going into the winter meeting and there were 2 sworn in. They're not at capacity right now because there were so many resignations, and then some people, probably Adam Krautz, the most well-known person who didn't take the opportunity to get in. And I think that it's important to realize that that 76 person group is more of a legislative body than an executive board of directors, right? And I'm a member of several boards. I've certainly worked for corporations and nonprofits that had boards. They are generally very directive and very much, supposed to be policing the ethos and the strategies, and certainly the high-level employees and holding them accountable. And really what we've had here at the NRA is a tail wagging the dog. You've got a very small group of people around Wayne LaPierre wagging the 76-person board. So you have committees like the Finance Committee, the Audit Committee, certainly the Ethics Committee, if one wanted to use it for the cause of good, could be a powerful committee. These are the committees where the assignments are hard to get. The assignments are definitely handpicked by the president and very few people around him or her, guided almost exclusively by Wayne LaPierre. And it also, even in one real standout moment in the fall board meeting, when Wayne LaPierre was up on the podium and he was praising Jason Wimay, the new head of the ILA, and the work he had been doing as the interim or temporary head. And I will tell you that I really like Jason. Jason's doing some great things. I think he's a potential great leader for the future of the NRA. But in this moment, Wayne just turned and looked at him, standing, he was seated up on the stage, and he looked down on the podium and said, "How about we make Jason permanent? Why don't we make this official right now? Jason, congratulations!" And of course, there's a smattering of applause. But then everybody sort of panics and looks around, and I don't know if it was Charles Cotton, maybe one of the first vice president or second vice president, somebody hangs the gavel and gets everybody calm down. Well, of course, we accept your recommendation, Wayne, because Wayne can't do that. But it's so incredibly clear that Wayne has been doing that kind of stuff, just by edict, deciding what's going to happen. So the board obviously did vote Jason in because Jason deserves that position and he's been doing a great job. But it was just really interesting to watch that play out in front of the members who were attending the fall board meeting, where we were not welcome, and obviously they weren't used to us being there.
Real quick, I got social media I need to get to. Dan says, "Geez, Rob, who do you think you are, making sense and stuff?" And one other comment, someone wants to know, has Ted Nugent changed his approach after he made that statement?
Yeah, he actually was the only board member at the fall meeting who stood up and objected to going into executive session. So when the board or any committee goes into executive session, the members have to leave, and only committee members and staffers, a small group of potentially invited guests can stay. But basically, it's they get to decide who stays. So off goes Rob, and off goes Frank Tate, and off goes any other member that, especially one that's not a friend to the current leadership. So Ted actually stood up and took the microphone and basically questioned going into executive session so quickly at the board meeting. That aren't there? We have interested members here. Why aren't we talking about things that they're interested in before we go to executive session? Do we really need to do this? And essentially, Charles Cotton used a parliamentary procedure shenanigans to shut Ted down. And kind of, do you have a motion you'd like to make, or are you just making a statement? And it everybody knew at that point where it was going to go. But he did make the gesture, and he has been more engaged and more involved than he has in the past. And he actually went to 2 board meetings in a row, I think for the first time in a long time as well. So Ted is definitely more engaged than he has been, and I hope he continues to be engaged because he's a very loud voice. I mean, he may have brought more members in and or more money into the NRA than any other single board member could claim in the last 20 to 30 years. And I know that they do listen to him.
I got one more social media comment, and I'll get your reaction. Then we got to run to break. Stan says, "I'm a very long time NRA member, but this internal fight could not have happened at the worst time. I feel like the HQ doesn't even know there is a fight for our lives going on in Virginia. I think I heard one and buffoonery afterward. Very frustrated." What's your take on the whole thing going on in Virginia? And have you seen that? I know the NRA has been doing some activity in Virginia.
Yeah, so I think that there's never a good time for this, right? This is a family fight, and we can't let "this isn't a good time" be the reason we don't clean up the NRA, especially with the New York State Attorney General's office, Washington, D.C.'s AG's office, and all eyes on us, Bloomberg running for president. We need a strong NRA. So I think that we must fight for reform and to make the NRA more effective. We can't say it's not a good time. It's never going to be a good time. It would have been great if we hadn't gotten here. But having said that, Virginia's been amazing. Yes, the NRA did an event, and I think a lot of the people that showed up were really there. Dwayne Liptak, who's again, if he were running for a seat right now, he's secure in his seat on the board, but I would definitely support him if he were running this time. He is one of the more active and engaged board members for sure in terms of speaking with members and trying to do the best he can to make the NRA strong and effective. And he and Magpul gave away 1,000 PMAGs at an event they had in Virginia on the 13th. And, they got praised in some ways for doing things on the 13th because it happened earlier than the lobbying day on the 20th. And certainly they caught a lot of criticism for not being part of the bigger event that was happening on the 20th. I tend to lean in that direction. That the lobbying day was well established. That they've been doing it for decades, and it certainly for a couple of months had been the focus. I would rather the NRA had focused on joining the 20th instead of doing their own thing, but at least they were involved. Having said that, the best thing about Virginia is that Virginia is a grassroots thing. You know, it's Second Amendment organization. We try to empower and educate people who want to be grassroots advocates. I really believe that proud American gun owners are how we win this. We win it at coffee shops. We win it at our kids' sporting games. You know, if anybody does come after the Second Amendment, it's going to get won by the people. Is the reason the Second Amendment is going to stand. It's not going to be, you know, this one state or certainly not any one organization. So what I love about Virginia over the last few months is that it was grassroots gun owners. It wasn't NRA, it wasn't VCDL, it wasn't any group that was taking those counties and cities one by one, showing up and doing the work. Nobody was bussed in, nobody was paid. That was grassroots at its finest. And I think the number that I'm going with is 60 to 70,000 in Richmond. There were 20 to 30,000 actually right there on the grounds. And then there were obviously a lot of people on side streets. I've heard numbers as high as 80. But coming, you know, through a couple of contacts inside of Virginia, I used to live there, was in law enforcement there. I think that 65 to 70,000 is the accurate number. That's amazing. It's the largest Second Amendment rally that's ever happened.
Right.
We're trying to have another rally in D.C. on October 24th, 2020, and I'll be happy if 5,000 people show up. So kudos to Virginians for doing the work.
All right, we do need to step aside to break. Can I have you hang out for one more segment, Rob?
Absolutely. Love to.
All right, we're going to step aside to break. We're going to hear from the complete combatant. We'll be right back right after this. This portion of the Polite Society podcast is brought to you by The Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant is designed for a broad base of citizens that range from students that don't own a gun on up to advanced students that train often. The Complete Combatant offers several different courses that build upon each other, from avoidance, using verbal commands, and preparing for contact, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, your 911 call, interacting with the police, to even dealing with the legal system in the aftermath. The Complete Combatant courses are a layered approach for all levels of experience that will walk you through all the many stages of decisions while developing a game plan tailored to your skills and your everyday carry. Please visit www.thecompletecombatant.com and make sure you mention this ad to receive 15% off. Again, that's www.thecompletecombatant.com and mention the ad for 15% off. And we're back. This is the second interview segment of the Polite Society podcast, powered by the Firearms Policy Coalition. We're still talking with Rob Pincus, and I'm going to change gears on you, Rob, here just a little bit. We're still talking NRA, and before I do that, Stan on social media says, Rob, well spoken, thanks. I want to talk about news that has broken in the last couple days, and I've been following it mostly through our own John Richardson and his OnlyGunsAndMoney.com blog, but looks like Josh Powell has gone away from the NRA. What's your take on that whole situation? Apparently there's been some shall we say, improprieties of a male-female nature that have been accused, but nothing's certainly proven. What's your take on the whole Josh Powell thing?
Josh Powell, I think, Colonel Robert Brown refers to him as a scoundrel, which is a very classic term for dirtbag, I think. He's probably right. This guy's just everything he touches. He's had prior business dealings with Pete Brownell. Everything he touched at the NRA was a disaster. Kerry Guard being the largest one. Just the problems inside of the NRA's education and training division are all the recent ones can be stemmed right back to Josh and his oversight of that division and some of the personnel issues and things like that. It was good riddance to get rid of Josh Powell. He was overpaid. There was a lot of stuff came out last spring and summer about the amount of money he was paid, the $800,000 moving allowance or something he was given when he took the position at headquarters. A girlfriend or a wife got a job with ACMAC or so. There was a lot of shenanigans there. So the sexual harassment things, I don't know any of the details, but I do know that there were two ramifications. One, the NRA settled financially to end one of the sexual harassment claims. When in one of the other sexual harassment claims, Akron McQueen of all, they kind of created the monster, Josh Powell, in a lot of ways with Kerry Guard. They actually had forbade Josh Powell to have anything to do with any Akron McQueen employee. They basically sent a letter to the NRA and said, because of this sexual harassment issue, he cannot do anything with any of our employees ever. So some of the changes in his job descriptions and his position over the last year and a half, 2 years, are all related to those things. Fast forward to a few days ago, I got wind of a court filing in Alexandria, Virginia Circuit Court from the Akron McQueen lawyers that basically said, we don't fit. The NRA answered these questions, right? These interrogatories. They answered these questions. They gave us these responses, and they were affirmed to. They were sworn to by Josh Powell as the guy representing the NRA. And now that Josh Powell is quote unquote on leave, we don't consider these things to be legally standing anymore. Or maybe we're concerned that 6 months from now the NRA is going to show up in a hearing and say, well, those don't count because we fired that guy because whatever. So this was a question that the Akron McQueen lawyers brought up. The big question is, what were they quoting from? How did they know in the first place that Josh Powell was put on leave pending an investigation? And of course, when people started asking all these questions, apparently a letter was sent out Saturday to all board members from John Fraser, the secretary of the NRA. He is the communications link primarily to the directors. He said that Josh Powell is no longer employed by the NRA. And that was Saturday. And I think it was Thursday that maybe that was Friday or Saturday. Then I think it was Thursday that Josh Powell removed the NRA references from his bio. Although when I tweeted out one of the stories, I think from Newsweek, I did notice I tagged him in it on Twitter, and he was still Josh Powell NRA. I don't know if that was part of the settlement agreement or if he has to change that or what. But good riddance. And now the question is, what shenanigans? Did he get a $1 million severance package? Is there a gag order? Are they afraid he's going to go to the New York Attorney General's office because, he has demonstrated himself to be, a guy that really wasn't very trustworthy? Is he going to go to the New York State Attorney General's office and turn against the NRA now? I'm sure there's a lot of questions being asked that won't be answered anytime soon, but will play out.
All right.
So I want to ask you about this new bill filed by Warren. Is she just trying to push the Overton window, or should we be worried?
Honestly, the Elizabeth Warren's bill, I'm not super familiar with it. It's been a crazy busy couple of weeks between Virginia and the NRA and the SHOT Show and everything else. So I can't comment specifically on it. Although I can definitely say, anything that comes, involves Elizabeth Warren and involves firearms, I'm going to assume it's over the top and, pandering to the base to win a nomination right now.
Fair enough. I mean, yeah, you're right. It is way over the top. It's kind of all encompassing, from red flag to bump stocks to magazines, etc. And it sounds to me like she's trying to lose Iowa. Isn't that bad timing?
I don't. Maybe she doesn't care about Iowa. I mean, at the end of the day, that's certainly not her base. And if she wants to have a hope of having that nomination against Biden and Bloomberg right now, she's got to go extreme. And I think the problem you have over there right now is, between Bernie's extreme and her extreme, I think they're going to cancel each other out. We're going to end up with Biden or Bloomberg. And I mean, there's no good choice there, right? I think that if anything, you could say Warren or Bernie Sanders gets into the race against any Republican, and they probably seem too extreme for America and can't win. Bloomberg and Biden might appeal to enough people, especially as many people as Trump's got mad at him, to win. That's the scary part.
And Robert, you just hit the nail on the head about the terrain, the political terrain. You're supposed to only go far enough left to get the nomination from your party, and these guys have gone way out there. I mean, you need a pretty good set of optics to see them from the middle of America. I wonder if they're going to be able to come far enough back to the center.
I mean, we should hope not, right? And I've been very critical of Trump, and this week we've got the ITAR changes have been put in place now. Finally, I've been dealing with people telling me I was violating ITAR for 15 something years. I posted about that this morning, and these are actually things that were started. The big ITAR conversations at the federal level started under Obama. At one point, it was like you aren't going to be allowed to talk about guns on the internet because this is technically exporting information in violation of ITAR. But we've got that fixed. And does that balance out bump stocks? Not really, because ITAR was never being enforced in the ways that it's being changed right now. But it certainly makes everything right now. It makes everything very much more in line with the practical reality of the landscape internationally when it comes to firearms, and especially for me, training and education. I like the ITAR changes. Trump is, if I have to point at one thing that I don't think anybody can take away from Trump, it's the federal judges. We're getting a lot of people put into positions, well over 200 people now, I think, and potentially we'll get 400 if they keep, or over 300, I guess, if we keep cramming this year. And then if he gets a second term, we could see over 400 judges put in place that will be libertarian-minded, conservative-minded, pro-business, theoretically small government. And that's all really good. So while I may not like the guy, certainly my politics lean towards him far beyond, Bloomberg or Warren or anybody else on your side.
When you go back and look at previous Republican presidents, he's doing things that neither of the Bushes ever touched with his judicial picks.
Yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely. Yeah. He's influenced. I've said for a long time, I have a political science degree that, I don't really use much, but I've said for a long time, the presidency really is symbolic domestically. There aren't very many ways the president can actually influence domestic politics other than, as a sounding board and as a sort of a voice piece for the legislative branch. If he has the party and the control of it, if the party has control of it, then he can certainly lead. Otherwise, the presidency is much more of an international position. And I think Trump's done a ham-fisted job at best internationally, but he is making an impact domestically because of the judge appointments that he's made, which is something we haven't seen in decades. Really, anybody kind of look at it from that point of view, that this is a power play for a president to really aggressively go after these judge positions. So it's working out in our favor right now. It can always flip and go the other way with another 8 years.
I think the interesting part about the judges is the fact that if he has an option of 2 conservative judges, he's every time selecting the younger of the 2. So he's not only putting conservative judges in place, but he's putting extremely young conservative judges to hold this for a longer and longer period of time.
Yeah, I think there's a, and you can be negative about it or positive. It's a smart play. If you have 2 people that basically feel the same way about the things and you're aligned with them, why wouldn't you take the person who's potentially going to serve longer? And obviously that means he's going to have a longer legacy. He's going to have a longer impact on the American society, whether he wins a second term or not.
All right.
Okay. Go. You're going to tell us we're running, Paul?
We've got 5 minutes left in segment. Go ahead, bud.
Boy, are you and I leaving the reservation, Mr. Pincus, and I'm right there with you. The sense that Trump has restrained some of the excesses of the bureaucracy, and you saw the economy bloom when regulations were at least predictable, as opposed to the capriciousness we'd seen in the earlier administration. I have to credit him. You're saying he's domestically impotent, and I'm going, the stock market says otherwise.
Well, no, I think the presidency, if you look at the impact that the legislative branch can have, the judicial branch can have, and the executive branch can have, the edicts that come from the executive branch are almost always going to have oversight from, you're going to need a law, or you're going to need funding from Congress, or you're going to have the judges come in and say, no, that's not fair, you can't do it. So, but there is some real unilateral power in terms of, war fighting and treaties and things like that, that the international impact of any president. And so I just think as a position, and uniquely, Trump is focused in my lifetime, possibly uniquely, trying to think of another example, my voting lifetime at least, he is uniquely being impactful domestically, which I think is something new.
I agree. We're just a few minutes from the end of we've got about 3.5 minutes before the end of the segment. I want to touch on some of the other things you're doing, and I'm sorry I had to wait so long to do this. Walk the Talk America is something you've been doing a lot with that I think is just an awesome program. Talk a little bit about that, and is there anything that's been new on it since the last time you've been on the show talking about it?
Yeah, actually, I wanted to tease something. It's going to come out this week. I'm going to be doing another media blitz. I hope that either Mike or Mike Sedini, the founder of Walk Talk America, can come on and talk to you guys about it sometime in the next few weeks. We have a new campaign that we're launching. It's a very specifically targeted towards suicide prevention inside of the firearms community, inside of our veteran community and first responder community, and that's going to be rolled out this week. We're going to start doing some media on it and posting some videos. It's a real simple idea. It's actually very closely related to the idea that I put out before in terms of motivating your training with the idea of protect what you love. Think about that, whether it's your kids or wanting to see your daughter get married, or you're engaged and you want to get married. Like, why are you carrying your gun? Why are you doing training? That protect what you love idea. So we've got a spin on that I think is really, I've run it through a bunch of people, and they've seen some of the early videos. They've seen the hashtag, and people are excited about it. So we've got a new program that's going to be launching to help people overcome suicide is an impulsive thing the overwhelming majority of the time. And of course, the means matter concept, that if you impulsively can reach a firearm and you're thinking about committing suicide or attempting suicide and you've got the firearm there, well, there's a very significant chance you're going to be successful, because it is, there's a lot of efficacy with firearm suicide attempts as opposed to, downing a bunch of pills where the efficacy is like 3%. So the firearm is 80+% in most studies. So we want to cause a pause. That's the idea here, is we want to have people find ways to, the way they store their guns, the way they carry their guns, the way they live their lives. We just want them to try to build in some moments of impulse control in the worst case scenarios, the crisis moment. And we've all dealt with struggles in our life, whether it's the divorce or the job or the DUI arrest or whatever it is. You lost another family member. You lose a brother in the military or law enforcement. We see trending suicides, guys that were in the same units, guys that were on the same missions, guys, people in law enforcement agencies. Last year, there was a big suicide trend that swept through the higher ranks of the NYPD, that swept up a very good friend of mine who was on his last night of 33 years of work for the New York Police Department, NYPD, in New York City, sitting in his patrol vehicle as a one-star chief, and took his own life his last night. And there were a high-ranking detective. There were plenty of other people that got swept up in that. So we want to cause a pause. We want to stop that cascading, emotional cascade, individually or in small groups. And so we're excited about that. We've had so much great response. The SHOT Show, again, National Shooting Sports Foundation, shout out to them. They gave us a booth in the nonprofit area, and we made a lot of great connections. We have a lot of people putting out our information cards at their ranges, putting information cards in the firearms boxes, in the safe boxes. Holster companies are doing it. So we're really spreading the word, trying to end the stigma around asking for and seeking mental health help and assistance, and being proactive about it inside the gun.
We are right up against the end of the break, but before we go, you're going to be taking off and starting your training tour here in about a month.
Look, I don't want to talk about anything that's going to make me money. I mean, let's not do that.
Oh, come on.
Nonprofit. Come on. Go to pdntrainingtour.com. This is the first year that the training tour has its own website, pdntrainingtour.com. 120 classes, 12 instructors, coast to coast. If you guys have been following me, you know the deal. March 26th, classes start in St. Augustine, Florida. And if you guys are going to be down in Florida, coming through south of Jacksonville, I'm going to be down at the range. We're like a mile from 95. So hook up with me Thursday or Friday if you're going to be in the area.
Oh, yeah, I'll be there Friday. I deliver Thursday, and I've got Friday off. So.
Okay, well, come see us at the range, Ancient City Shooting Range. We're going to be there March 26th to the 30th for the first classes of the tour. And I'll be speaking in Orlando. Otherwise, I'd be going to the Florida Carry event. But I'm already booked to speak at a Freedom Expo in Orlando on Saturday. So I'll be there Saturday morning.
Very cool. Well, Rob, thank you so much for joining us tonight, man.
Thanks. And all of you, thank you for not only what you do here with this podcast, but you guys are involved in so many different things, so many different projects. And whether it's the blogs or the DC project work, like you guys are really, you guys make things happen. So I appreciate you guys letting me share some of your bandwidth.
Absolutely. We do need to step aside to break. We're going to be hearing about Concealment Solutions. We'll be back with our news segment right after this.
This portion of the Polite Society podcast is brought to you by Concealment Solutions. Jason Christensen makes the most comfortable inside the waistband holster on the market, bar none. The Black Mamba. Some of the other products offered are the Sidewinder outside the waistband holster and Python gun belts. Every product that Concealment Solutions makes has unsurpassed craftsmanship that shows in the fit and finish of the product. Visit concealmentsolutions.com to view all of the products available, and you can get 10% off your order when you enter the promo code POLITICS in the promo code box at checkout. That's concealmentsolutions.com.
Okay, and we're back. This is the Polite Society podcast powered by the Firearms Policy Coalition. I'm going to take a risk. Before we get into news, we got one person who's not yet been able to give his personal news, and I think he got his microphone fixed. Dana, are you there? And maybe not.
I think he walked away from his computer. I saw a motion.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah. Well, in that case, we're just going to have to scamper on off and go to poor Dana. He's gonna feel like nobody loves him. We're going to have to scamper off to news. I don't have my show note. There they are. There's my show notes. Nobody's assigned to read these. I'll just go ahead and I'll take the first one here. This one is the Gun Violence Prevention and Community Safety Act. On January 30th, Senator and presidential hopeful Elizabeth Warren and Senators Markey, Menendez, and Booker from the modern slave states of Massachusetts and New Jersey introduced the Senate Gun Violence Prevention and Community Safety Act. On the House side, it's been introduced by Representative Hank Johnson of Georgia. All the sponsors are, as we would expect, have D's behind their names. The legislation amalgamates 14 different bills already introduced. Among the things it would put into law would be a federal gun licensing system, universal background checks, close the mythical gun show loopholes, establish a federal extreme risk protection order system, require background check denials get reported to law enforcement, safe, store, raise minimum age to purchase and guns and ammo to 21, a 7-day waiting period, school campus bans, assault weapon ban on accessories such as bump stocks, large magazines, and Jerry Mikulek, he'll have to take his arms off, require all firearms be serialized, crack down on gun trafficking by banning bulk purchases, improving ATF oversight of dealers, including enhanced record keeping, repeal the PLCAA, and also the U.S. Consumer Safety Commission to address defects, raise the excise tax to 30% on gun sales and 50% on ammo, invest in research and gun violence prevention. Clearly, Ms. Warren is signaling her intention to put the Second Amendment and the inalienable right to life granted by our Creator. She claims this would eliminate loopholes and contradictions, but has been seen in the past. Comprehensive legislation is just rife with those things. Gary, man, you're first up in show notes. What do you think, bud?
Well, I have to say I'm very excited that Hank Johnson is the House sponsor. Can't wait to see him pitch it. You know, Hank was the one who told us if too many people move to an island, it'll flip over. You know, they've got the best.
They just got to be balanced, man. As long as they're on both shores, it's okay. If they get too many on the east shore, too many on the west shore, that's where you run into problems.
No, I think
it explains California and New York. Oh, whoops.
Yeah. I think this thing has no shot. I think they're going to try and stab at anything they can following what Virginia has done. But I think Virginia is going to get to the courts and they're going to be rudely awakened as to what will really be allowed in violation of the Second Amendment. And it's not going to be crap like this. Like I said with Rob Pincus, this is someone trying to push really hard on the Overton window, and I don't think it's going anywhere. We have to fight it again, but I don't think it's going anywhere. Rob?
Bigots are going to bigot. And what I wonder is this won't change any votes of Republicans or Libertarians. Okay, you're a Democrat gun owner. Which are you going to be? These acts would do nothing to stop crime or mass murder. They're simply a way to impose their will on gun owners. So are you going to be a Democrat, or are you going to stand up for the human right of self-defense? John, straighten me out.
There's nothing to straighten out other than gun violence is really the criminal misuse of a firearm. There is no such thing as gun violence,
Right.
just like baseball bat violence, etc. All I'm going to say is if you're going to raise the age to vote, raise the age to purchase a firearm to 21, then you should repeal the 26th Amendment allowing 18-year-olds to vote, raise that to 21. If you're not qualified to vote, you're not qualified to own a firearm. If you're not qualified to vote or own a firearm, then you should not be drafted at 18. As to the likelihood of passage, I agree 100% with Gary. This is just for show. This is just to win brownie points, trying to take some of the stuff away from Bloomberg and Bernie. It's not going to go anywhere.
Now, I know that Amanda, I think you're having problems getting into show notes, but you've got to have an opinion on this.
Oh, I've got opinion. I've got it. Do I have an opinion? No, I have show notes, but I'm good. So here's my thing is look at Florida. Florida just today announced the fact that they needed 750,000 signatures to be able to take the voting from do the assault weapons ban and start to shove some stuff that way. They only got 146,000 signatures after they used Bloomberg money to pay a California firm to come into Florida to get the signatures. So they weren't even grassroots in it, and they couldn't do it.
Right.
So when you start to look at this, it says that if we're sleeping, things happen. And as soon as we wake up, and let me tell you, the entire country is waking up. It's not going to happen.
Amanda, what you just said is that Bloomberg has done the market analysis. It's cheaper to buy legislators than to buy citizen petitions.
Yep, I think so.
So you brought up Florida, and you reminded me of something. Did everybody see the little Parkland a-hole attack one of the prison guards on video?
Yeah.
That was very telling.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's because the guy told him to stop shuffling his feet, pick his feet up.
Yeah.
And that was enough to warrant an assault.
You typically, I've met guys who are prison guards. I wouldn't assault them for love or money. That's going to hurt.
Oh, yeah, he was giving up 50, 100 pounds on the guy, too. Still went after him.
For a moment there, I thought you were talking about Camera Hog, but I guess I was wrong.
Nope, the
No.
shall not
Actual
be jerk.
Shall not be named. Yeah.
All right. I want to jump in on this, and I'm going to drag it back to a little bit about what, how do I put this? I really hope that either Sanders or Warren, and I hope it's Warren more than Sanders, wins the Democratic nomination and continues to push this and push it hard. The reason being is I'm thinking we're honestly beginning to look at a 1984 Reagan-Mondale election. She is so far left, and Bernie is so far left, that should they get the nomination, I'm hoping one of the two does, that they cannot go back to center. And they're going to have to continue running left, and we're going to have 48 out of 50 states go for Trump again. That's what I hope.
I think Bloomberg's going to be the guy.
No.
Yeah, see, Mondale didn't have Soros money.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Well,
John, go ahead.
one little thing I'd like to say about Bernie. When he ran for Congress the first time against a Republican as an independent, the reason he won is he had the NRA endorsement.
Oh.
Yes.
The irony. Sorry.
Oh,
Yes.
that's funny.
We got a couple social media comments. John says, why does our elected employees resort to the arbitrary number 21 when it comes to legislation? Honestly, I think that's just tied to drinking age. I don't think there's an that's the as far as it goes right there. Kevin says, Bloomberg bought our Republican Senate President Bill Galvano here in Florida with a cool $500,000. And Rob, that goes right to what
Yep.
you were saying is that George Soros and Bloomberg money that can flat out buy legislators.
It's working in Florida so far.
Yeah, big donations in small races go a long way.
Oh yeah, statewide. Yeah, they're small. There really are small races, John. You're right.
Not even statewide races, just legislative district. I mean, where you have like 30,000 votes, and you still all of a sudden throw $1 million to $2 million into that race.
Oh, yeah.
That's what Soros did with district attorneys races.
Well, a congressional race, $1 million is kind of the threshold. You can make a big difference. So you could buy yourself a congressman, a U.S. congressman. Not
Only
buy
one?
them, but buy them into that seat for $1 million.
That reminds me of a dirty joke that I don't dare tell on the air. We've got 2 minutes.
Oh, just tease us.
After we go off air, we got 2 minutes left of the segment. We're probably gonna have to stretch it a little bit. John, Rob, I really do think we need to get at least the next two stories in because these are big.
The Second Amendment Foundation and the Illinois State Rifle Association filed suit in the Northern District of Illinois. That's the Eastern Division Federal Court. The suit was filed against the state of Illinois and the Illinois State Police. The suit alleges that delays are resulting in the denial of the Second Amendment rights of residents. Why the delays? The lawsuit states that the Illinois State Police swept or transferred funds totaling more than $30 million out of the State Police Firearms Services Fund, the State Police Operations Assistant Fund, and the State Police, I think that's a repeat there. Anyway, these funds were taken into other accounts. The money that was supposed to be used to administer the firearms owner's ID card background checks, and also for firearms-related services. I think it also includes funds for concealed carry licensing. Instead, the $30 million were subject to inter-fund transfers, ostensibly to be repaid. I'll respect you tomorrow. Or swept into other accounts that didn't even have an obligation to return the funds at all. Now, have we ever seen governments pillage funds like, for gas taxes before? Every damn day.
How about Social Security?
There we go. The politicians promise the sweeping of funds denied qualified Illinois citizens their rights and ability to defend themselves and their family. That's a quote from Alan Gottlieb, executive and founder at SAF. Because of this practice, Illinois State Police processed FOID and concealed carry applications have slowed to a crawl. That's not poor performance, that's pathetic, and it's a violation of civil rights. In two separate lawsuits, the Illinois State Supreme Court is considering the state's FOID card system, whether it's constitutional, and if the court strikes down the FOID card system, the case would then be moot, but the hindrance to the right to keep and bear arms would also, fortunately, disappear. Amanda, What do you think about this?
Well, I think that the interesting part about this whole thing is the fact that there's $30 million missing. Okay, so there's the guys with the FOID cards that aren't getting their FOID cards. They've expired, so they're dragging it out. If SAF wins the lawsuit, then they have to stop charging the money and they stop the FOID cards. So that's what that is. And the politicians get to keep the $30 million. If they lose the lawsuit and continue the FOID card, the politicians continue to get to pillage and rape and plunder the accounts. So the citizens of Illinois don't win at all. The politicians either get $30 million or a whole lot more than that. There's like no bad side for them, except for maybe that the $30 million faucet slows down or shuts off. It's crazy.
Well, yeah, we're famous in Illinois for doing this. They actually had to come up with a lockbox amendment to keep them from pillaging highway funds. That's what we've been talking about here, is another lockbox amendment, because they have a bill that's been floating around for a few years now to increase FOID card fees from $10 to $50. Actually, at one point it was $2.50, but they couldn't get the Black Caucus on board with that, so they backed it off to $50, but shortening it from 10 years to 5 years, blah, blah, blah. But again, this is another place where they don't give a flying hooter McScooter what happens. And so if it slows us down, they don't care. And I say a right denied is a right delayed, or the other way around. It's terrible. It's disgusting. And this is the Second Amendment. It's actually in the Illinois Constitution, but for some reason they didn't bother reading what they were swearing to when they were sworn in. Rob?
Yeah, $30 million of bureaucratic control over someone's human rights. And other than life and death, when we leave people disarmed in Illinois, it's trivial. What bothers me is that I predict a judge will look the other way and go, oh yeah, politics as usual. And it's getting the citizens of Illinois killed. That's gross.
We got one more story, and we are already over on time. So, John, could I have you get into that one?
Alrighty. In a follow-up to the Susan Holmes illegitimate ERPO petition, the Larimer County Sheriff Justin Smith has added her to the county's most wanted list after they were unable to locate her. Holmes was warned by the judge that her potentially false claims could be used in the future against her. A warrant has been issued and the sheriff's office has been unsuccessful in apprehending her. She faces perjury and attempting to influence in an officer charge. Both charges came after she filed court documents and certified her claims of a relationship as fact. Sheriff Smith hopes filing the charges against Holmes would send a message to the state that using the Colorado ERPO law improperly will be punished. A warrant for arrest has been issued and includes a nationwide extradition order.
I'm going to jump in and say that's the key right there, is the nationwide extradition order. She can't even go to Puerto Rico to hide. Anywhere the U.S. Constitution applies, the state of Colorado will bring her back.
Yeah, but she's going to win this lawsuit. She's going to win this. And here's the reason why. She didn't say that the guy, that the officer who was forced to interact and killed her child was, in fact, the father of another one of her children. She just had to say that he was involved. The wording is that in such a manner to the fact that because they had that altercation, that he was involved in that child's life. So it's all in the wording.
I always thought she said that he was the father of one of her children.
I don't think so. I don't think she said that. I think she was talking about the child. The police officer was forced to defend himself and thus shot her child, right? But so she's saying that officer was involved in somehow in that. So you got to really go back and look specifically at the wording, because I think that's words matter. And I think that's where this one sits.
Right. Well, it's an actual form that she filled out.
Mm-hmm.
So the Facebook video of her filling out the form.
But she didn't say he was the father.
Oh, the checkbox actually says a child in common.
Right.
And
we have a child in common. He killed my child. That's pretty common.
That's what she said.
Right.
When she was filling it out. We have a child in common. He killed my son, child in common.
Bingo.
It's vague.
Mm-hmm.
ERPO laws.
Right.
And just vague gun laws in general that allow this kind of stuff to fly by.
Mm-hmm. We
are way, way, way late on break. And so,
I think you said that a couple times.
Yeah, we're
just ignoring you.
Okay. Y'all get docked and pay this week. All right, we're gonna step aside to break. When we come back, we've got our DGU segment to get to, but we're gonna hear about the Firearms Safety Academy first.
Firearm Safety Institute is one of Northwest Illinois' premier firearm training companies. They provide superior firearm training to all levels of shooters. Gary Doherty has been a trainer and concealed weapons permit holder for many years. While living in Nevada, he carried legally and has the experience to train you to do the same. Firearms Safety Institute offers a wide range of courses designed to meet the personal needs of both seasoned shooters and those that are new to the world of firearms. If you are looking to apply for the Illinois Concealed Carry License, Firearms Safety Institute can provide you with the professional training that meets the state's requirements. Gary accommodates classes of all sizes and can provide individualized instruction if that is your personal preference. He's happy to work with you and your friends to arrange private classes and will come to your location and work around your schedule. If you would like to get your Illinois CCW or increase your firearm knowledge or skills, go to firearmsafetyinstitute.com to start the conversation. Mention the Polite Society podcast and receive a 10% discount on your training. Remember, that's firearmsafetyinstitute.com. Get your Illinois CCW today.
Okay, we're back. This is the defensive gun use segment of the Polite Society podcast, powered by the Firearms Policy Coalition. Now, these discussions are not legal advice. Some of us, I think most of us are trainers, but this is not formal training, and you need formal training. The defensive gun use segment is intended as information only, not as training. As always, the opinions of the host are only their own opinions and not those of any sponsors or other affiliations. Amanda, you got our first DGU.
Right. Enid, Oklahoma. 3 teens attempted to force their way into a home, but the armed resident chased them off with several shots aimed at them. The rookie criminals ran from the scene after the shots were fired. Police, after responding to the burglary call, found one of the suspects at a nearby intersection with a gunshot wound. The 14-year-old, catch that, 14. The 14-year-old was taken to a hospital where he was later transported to a morgue due to his wounds. Police state that they knew the resident had fired shots, but the investigation was ongoing. They could not state with a certainty that the homeowner was the person who shot the teen. The 2 remaining suspects are still at large. Paul?
I want to stress on this one, 2 things on this one. Number 1, the 14-year-old is going to end up being cited by the anti-gunners of a child killed by guns.
Right.
And that's unfortunate, but it's just that's part of the statistics is you break into somebody's house, you threaten them, you get shot, you're going to be a victim of gun violence. That's the way the other side works. The other thing is, I want taking it back to the training perspective, and that's this: are you prepared to shoot somebody that's 14 years of age? If somebody
in your own home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If somebody breaks it, they could be 5 foot nothing, 4'8" at that age. Or they could be 6'3", but a young person. There have been a lot of gang activity where they're that young. You've got to be prepared. You got to think about these things in advance. Gary, what do you think, man?
Well, you're right. You're absolutely right on that. That's why we do these segments. It's particularly the defensive gun use segments, because I hope and pray that people are thinking of these things in advance. Now, we don't have a ton of information on this story. It says they ran from the scene after the shots were fired, and then they found somebody with shots. I hope that they weren't in the back. I hope someone didn't go chasing someone down their front yard and shoot them. We don't have the follow-up on that, but let's hope and pray. Rob?
This is why they created castle doctrine. Someone breaks into your home at night. It is a witch to figure out who they are, what position they're in, what's the threat. The assumption was when someone forcibly breaks into your home, they're not there to deliver you hot cookies.
Really?
I know. In your case, I take it back. In my case, no. You're not. I mean, knowing how you travel, man, I think you've got the cookie vote. But
it's those Girl Scouts, man. Once those Girl Scouts rush the truck, man, it's done for. I'm broke.
There you go. But the thought, was he shot in the back? Someone breaks into my house, comes toward me. I've got such limited information about body posture. Yeah, I could imagine you get shot in the back and acquitted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in the house. This is written in a way that they fled the scene after shots were fired. I just want to make sure that we're thinking about it if the situation arises for us, that if they're fleeing.
You think the guy might have turned loose a shot after the kids headed down the street?
It's not enough information to give you the answer to that. I'm saying,
okay, gotcha.
Put yourself in this situation, and you can turn off the adrenaline tap once they turn to escape.
So
yes, by practicing, by having a plan in your head. This is what I do. You cannot think, but you can execute things you've practiced.
Right. Practiced and trained for, and that's what I said. Our DGUs are for us to begin creating, not officially creating, but begin creating those neural pathways on how we're going to deal with this situation.
All right, let's move on to the next one. Oh, wait.
Dana wanted to say something. I think Dana actually gets to speak right now.
Does Dana have a microphone?
I think so. Can you speak? You're muted still. Now you're muted. Nope, muted. Okay. Never mind. You missed your opportunity. We gave you an opportunity and you missed it. I have one last thing to say, though.
Sure.
So the last thing to say.
So he was not, the victim was not on the gun violence memorial site, and the story was vague on when the shots were fired. He wrote the story. He's just giving us more details.
So he's trying to tell us that. But the other part is that, the story's about this 14-year-old, and you're like, oh, he's a kid. He's not a kid. They're corn-fed, giant-sized people. You look at 14-year-olds now, and I mean, they just recently had a thing where a girl who passed herself off as 19 was really 13, and no one knew it for a year.
Wow.
Okay? So you can't tell. The older we get, the less likely we are to be able to tell how old they are. Once they get past about 7, we have no clue.
I was foreman for 5 years, and I was also almost 6 foot at 14. So I kind of still can tell because I'm used to identifying people.
Got it.
All right. Let's go and move on to Beaumont, Texas, Gary.
It has been a couple of weeks since we've had an episode of ex-boyfriends behaving badly. A Fannett man with a history of domestic violence arrests allegedly kicked in the door of his ex-girlfriend's LaBelle's home. Ex-girlfriend's LaBelle home. He forced his way to the residence and a ruckus erupted before he was shot by a resident. There were several other people in the home at the time of the incident. All are cooperating. The police declined to say whether he had a firearm. The intruder had a record of 3 arrests for family violence. 2 for unlawful possession of a firearm, and have been charged with terroristic threats and harassing communications. The man was taken to the hospital where his soul made the final journey and caught the ferry. Who's got a comment?
Yeah. This one, again, is a little bit vague. And I got to say, Dana, although you can't speak, dude, that was some writing. Caught the ferry across the river Styx. Dude, there's an education there. I'm telling you, man.
His high school English teacher just kicked her heels. She was so excited.
I did that a little much for talking about a dead person, though.
Yeah. You know, it's unfortunate that there's so many of these ex-boyfriend, ex-husband. It's been a few weeks, but I want to go slip back to training again. Are you prepared, if your life is in danger, to take the shot against somebody you know and maybe at one point profess love for? You know, there's these things have got to be thought out in advance.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. An ex-boyfriend can be dangerous. We know that. We've seen that over and over. So what will you do? Yes, get a restraining order. By all means, it's a piece of paper. You know, talk to your neighbors, talk to your family, talk to your friends. The inclination of, oh, I've got a crazy guy bothering me now, is to hide. Don't hide. Amanda?
Well, the one thing that comes to mind on this is the same thing that you were involved in when you're teaching teachers to do, like, faster saves lives, to protect. It's the fact that they're in a circumstance or a situation where they may be forced to shoot someone they know, that they like, that they love, that they have respect for, and something's happened. And so that's a harder thing for people to get their heads around. It's easier when you're shooting a stranger that's in the monster position with their hands up and they're gonna eat you or do something bad to you. It's much harder when it's somebody that you've interacted with socially or that you've known intimately. And so that takes a whole different mindset, and it really takes a lot of work and a lot of practice and a lot of thought. But Rob, you've done a couple of the faster things. What do they say there?
You have to remember the people behind you.
Yeah.
You have 30 to 50 people behind you who depend on you. You cannot fail. And at that point, you don't see a person, you see their actions. I stopped someone who exhibited this behavior, very much like what you do about this former lover. Mm-hmm. I'm stopping the person who choked me unconscious, who hurt my kids, who sent all these threatening texts that then get followed with, oh, ignore all that stuff. I love you. Let's get back together, and ignore all the history of abuse. Gary?
I want to agree with that comment and your prior comment. You said get a restraining order and get a firearm, get training, because it's still just a piece of paper and it will not stop a crazy person.
All right. Well, we are going to step us that was our last DG. We're going to step aside to break. When we come back, we're going to go ahead and wrap the show up and send y'all home, and we're going to get out of here. We'll be right back right after JPFO talks to us right now.
In 1928, Germany required its citizens to register their firearms, making possible Hitler's 1938 Nazi Weapons Act, disarming all Jews. Now ask yourself, what is the real consequence of registration? All in favor of gun control, raise your right hand. Brought to you by Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership, America's aggressive civil rights organization. JPFO.org.
All right. This is the final segment of the Polite Society podcast powered by the Firearms Policy Coalition. Normally at this point, I beg for emails. If you do want to email the show, it's on air at politicsandguns.com. However, I much prefer it if you come watch our live videos and comment on the videos. We can get your comments up right away, interact as we're on air, and several people have done that tonight, and I want to thank you all that have done that. Let's go ahead and get off to blog posts. And Rob, you've been out of here for a few weeks. What's been up with you on your blog, man?
Well, I'm not going to list them all. I wrote articles about church security and articles about politics. They'd be a great fit for a show called Politics and Guns. Those articles are up at Clash Daily, at Ammoland, and at my blog, slowfacts.wordpress.com. John, I've been reading your articles. Thank you so much. Tell us more.
Well, I'm just going to mention two things. First, I have my recommendation for the NRA Board of Directors up. I am bullet voting for only Frank Tate and Graham Hill. I explain more of my rationale on the blog and also why I'm not voting for some other people such as Mark Robinson, who I really like. Second, it was rumored and then confirmed on Friday that Wayne LaPierre's Chief of Staff, Josh Powell, had been placed on administrative leave. Late Saturday, an email was sent to the NRA board members telling them that Powell was no longer with the NRA. I have actually read the full email, and it gives no reason for the departure. Powell was responsible for the later development and rollout of CarryGuard and had served as head of general operations prior to becoming chief of staff. He had, shall we say, a checkered career with the NRA. That and more is at onlygunsandmoney.com.
All right, and John, as I said during the Rob Pincus interview, man, I've been following you to get news about that. That's you've been covering it very well, and thank you for that.
Thank you. And I got to say that sometimes when you're after documents, it doesn't hurt to reach out to the other side, like the Washington Post or the Trace. I got the actual document from the Washington Post, a reporter there.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I got one. We did not do this at the beginning of the show, and I need to do this because it is really important for me to mention that we are a proud member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. For those of you who are viewing the video live right now, you can see that on the Self-Defense Radio Network page, there are a bunch of really cool shows that are part of our network. Shows like, well, Rob's Self-Defense Gun Stories. There's this little syndicated national radio show called Eye on the Target Radio that is part of the network. There's a lot of really great stuff there. So if you just go to sdrn.us and look at that, we would really appreciate it. And listen to some of the other shows on the network. And then lastly, we do want to encourage you to go to the Facebook listeners group, check out the listeners group. We get more people in there all the time. I know a few people personally that joined from the Sioux Falls area the past week, which is really super cool. Just go to Facebook and search Polite Society Podcast. Listeners, you do have to request to join. It is a private group. We will not let Michael Bloomberg in there. So, but you do have to request to join. So that does wrap up another episode of the Polite Society Podcast. I'd like to thank Rob Pincus for joining us tonight. So for Amy, Tracy, Belle, Kat, Dana, Gary, John, Rachel, Susan, Amanda, and Rob.
Until next time,
stay safe.
Be aware.
And we'll see you down the road.
The views and opinions on the show you just heard are those of the host and the guest and are not necessarily the views of any sponsors or other affiliations. But hey, not everyone is as smart as we are.